Welcome to Oregon Voters Digest, the program that brings forward the social and political issues that are important to people living here in the Pacific Northwest. And now, your host, Bruce Broussard.
Welcome again to this segment of the Oregon Voters Digest. I'm Bruce Broussard, your host, and by George, I tell you, we're here, folks. It's called the Voters Pamphlet. There it is right there. And you know, on the last several shows or whatever, we've been talking about basically just giving you some information, educating you and informing you about what is going on, what is about to happen. It's a very important time period here for our communities, around the state for that matter. But Portland's is this state's largest segment that's going to be very much involved. And you know, this is where all the action is and whatever. So anyway, I don't want to go beyond this particular point. I've got Rochelle Dixon here with me today, and by the way, we've been doing some shows before on this piece, so now she's going to give us sort of an update, and a lot of stuff is out. The Voters Pamphlet is out, aspect of it, it's out there. Some folks are getting even, in some cases, some ballots. The ballot's going to be shown pretty soon, but the Voters Pamphlet is out, and that's the one that I'm holding here in my hand, the Voters Pamphlet aspect of it. It's here, right here now. You should have it. Pick it up, read it, check it out, and there's some corrections that should be made, only from the standpoint of what's in it. I mean, we have to translate in many ways why certain folks are doing certain things, okay? But there's some good people, but in terms of some of the larger issues, as it relates to homelessness, mental illness, public safety aspect of it, mental illness, these are some heavy issues. And it's kind of interesting how people are responding. It's kind of like they're dealing it on the advertising, so then you have to figure out who's picking up the tab for the advertising. And a lot of times it's just economics. We do not want to cut off the economics of that aspect, but the little people, the people are going to be affected big time this time around if they don't really get involved. Meaning that you're going to be picking up the tab. More taxes. Oh. And you got a lot of stuff. So I've got someone who's going to do most of the talking this time around.
I'm chomping at the bit. You can see me. I'm chomping at the bit.
She's here, because she's going to give you an update on what's happening with the people, and how she feels about what. I'm sure she looked at this.
Yes, but before we talk individual, let's talk about. Did you get this? If you didn't get this, go to the public library or go online. You can also get this information online. If you did not get your ballot, you should be getting your ballot. Different people are getting them at different times. But if you did not get your ballot, you can go down to the Multnomah election office and get yourself a ballot. It happens sometimes when people move, they forget to change their address. You can go online to the state of Oregon, the Secretary of Oregon, online, and you can go and look at Multnomah elections and actually look up your address. So if your address is wrong, you can correct it, then you can just go down there and get your ballot. So you're going to have to probably do that. I think the hours are 8 to 5, but just to be sure,
and that phone number it's in there too.
Yeah, and check online. Yeah. And there's the phone numbers on here, right, 503-988-8683.
One more time on that number.
Yeah, and I'll give it to you again, 503-988-8683. But I know sometimes we get excited. Other people have their ballots and we don't have our ballot, and we're wondering where it is. This is a very exciting time of the year. It's an exciting time because it's the time when the people get to speak. Now, the people get to speak versus the electeds, okay? And I'm going to use that term, electeds versus leadership. I'm really tired of the two being concerned, because an elected official is supposed to do the will of the people. And when tough times come, they're supposed to show leadership qualities.
Or in the layman's term aspect of it, they're the employees of the people.
They're the employees, correct. They're employees.
I mean, so, I'm not trying to downgrade it.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is, they do represent us, but the fact of the matter is, they're supposed to be doing and listening what we're saying.
That's right.
And
then
translate in such a fashion that we all equally have to pay a certain amount of taxes, if you will, because we all live here.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's the masses that should be the front. They are basically the employers.
Yes, we're the employers, and we should be directing the employees,
Right.
or the electeds,
represent us, yes.
to represent our points of view, and to get the things that we need to be
Right,
done
right,
in
right.
this community to be
And in
done.
all due respect, traditionally, big businesses, if you will, people with money who have self-interest, if you will, and they, in most cases, they are the majority of the economics, if you will, because
Of course.
they're also taxpayers. Got my point? But
yeah.
sometimes it gets down to the point where are we really getting to the bulk of the people who are out here, even though they spend their money aspect of it, but we want to keep them in their homes. We want to keep them on their jobs. I mean, just on down the line. But there's a problem here now with the economic side.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to do all the talking now,
You can
because I'm
talk.
going to question this guy too, right? Okay, so I know a little bit about him, but I'm going to let him tell you a lot about himself. But first, I just want to look through these pages here. So if you did not know, if you did not tune in, and you have your book, you should know that Bruce is running
I got a piece of my
for
campaign.
election.
Yep.
He doesn't have his campaign a sign here, but he is running for Metro councilor position.
President.
And you should look in your book, and in the back, let's see what page he's on, because we're going to talk.
And while you're doing that, please, in all due respect, again, the president of the Metro basically oversees, if you will, a discussion between three of the major counties here in Oregon, which is Washington County, okay, Clackamas County, and Multnomah County. Okay, got me? But in all due respect, one of the things that I'm advocating is that we should also have Clark County involved in the process, because they're part of this hub, if you will. Got me? And so all four of these entities identify with the whole issue of the four major issues that we're talking to, and that's the discussion. That's where my head's at. Got me? Okay, go.
I just want to say, when you look at this, when you get this, let's see, what page is this? M32 and M33, and it continues on M34. But I'm just going to talk about these two pages. When you look at these two pages, something interesting pops out. I noticed that the first gentleman here that I personally don't know, but I have met in the past, Juan Carlos Gonzalez is first, and then he's got a list of endorsements, and there's a couple other folks that don't have quite the list of endorsements that he has. Actually, no one does. So he stands out, but unfortunately he stands out for a couple of the wrong reasons. As I'm reading down this thing, he's got the right ideas, you know. It just doesn't seem like he's had much experience in these areas at all. So we have Juan Carlos Gonzalez, we have Bruce Broussard running, Chris Christensen, Ken Ross. I think the most famous name here is Bruce Broussard. Okay, so he's been around for, we're not going to say how many years, right? Philip Finsterer and Brian Evans is running for auditor of Metro. So he's in a class of his own there. But just for this particular thing, we're going to concentrate on Bruce and give him a chance to talk. Now, if there are others who want to come on this show and talk about their campaign, please do give me a call at 503-389-8912, because we actually want to hear from everyone. We think the solution comes from the people. We don't think the solution comes from top down. We think it comes from bottom up, but we want to hear everyone's different approaches to that. So I'm going to take a look at what he says here in the print, and then ask him a few questions about this. So Bruce says that he's retired. He's been retired from, I guess, about 3 or 4 jobs that I know about, because he used to own a restaurant, if you guys remember the restaurant.
Well, my wife's. I was just there as a servant.
Yeah, okay. He was a servant.
I was doing what I was supposed to do.
Yes, serving some good old Creole food at Norma's restaurant. So he did that for a while.
It was a business, yeah.
But he's had his finger in many different things. So I understand that just not too far from where we are, you're responsible for building the complex right adjoining the police station. That you helped build that apartment complex?
Walnut Park.
Walnut Park. I was going to ask what we call that. So that area used to be called Walnut Park. I lived here when that was true, and there was Union Avenue, Walnut Park. There was a Fred Meyer's, and I believe there was a Montgomery Ward or a Sears across the street.
Yes, right.
So we're talking a long time ago.
Yeah.
So Bruce has been involved in housing people for quite some time, going back to that Walnut Park project. I don't know how difficult that project was. Do you want to just tell me a little bit about how that project got started or why you were even involved in building homes?
Well, briefly, basically, I got into the housing program aspect of it. A gentleman by the name of Plummer Realty.
Okay.
Herman Plummer had called me. I was busy doing some other things, but he called me and said that the developer that he had been working very closely with was in the process of buying homes and rehabbing homes, and they were looking for a manager, a construction rehab manager type. And he knew I had some background, and he also knew that I was a former Marine recruiter at the time, and I knew the community that you were talking about. And so I interviewed with the gentleman, and the gentleman hired me. And it was called Better Housing Corporation.
Better Housing Corporation.
Better Housing Corporation.
And can I ask you a question? Better Housing. That name says a lot, because I think that's what we're looking for now. I'm personally looking for better housing. I'm kind of in a smallish condo situation that I've outgrown many years ago, but it's so expensive to move. What at the time was causing the need for this new unit to be built in Walnut Park? What was going on?
Well, in all due respect, is that the housing was considered kind of a low-income area type situation.
Yes.
And people were not being, well, they weren't being reached out for home acquisition.
I see.
Okay, being able to get a real estate loan, home for homes and whatever, and in most cases, they were low-income type folks or whatever. Again, blacks were there, African Americans were having some problems, if you will, or whatever. So the whole idea was that, in fact, it was Ben Franklin at the time, and Ben Franklin was working a guy named Louis Scherzer, who I'd known, was looking out, basically taking the lead, if you will, to basically get financiers and whatever to purchase these homes and then rent them out. And so, but I got into the process because I knew the community real well. Because as a recruiter, that was part of my charge. I was kind of like recruiting young people and this, that, and the other. So I had to basically identify with the whole area.
Yeah, so you had a relationship with the individuals in that community
very much so.
That allowed you to smoothly be able to access not only the community members, but also the folks who were in the loan community and the building community. Well, they knew your background and your discipline.
And you make a good point about the bank, because I was working for a U.S. Bank at one point in time. I spent some time at U.S. Bank as a loan officer. So I knew I was very familiar with that. But again, one of the major things that Herman basically contacted me for, they were vandalizing those houses when they were being remodeled.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah,
now, I didn't know that part. So they were vandalizing.
There was some problems, and then plus the fact I happened to have known some people that I reached out to, and was helping them get their rentals over there, etc. But then I was more of a kind of a home ownership type deal, and so consequently I started looking into that aspect of it, and I saw it from the bank standpoint. The Community Reinvestment Act, CRA, recognizing the fact that they're supposed to put some monies back into the community. You got me?
Okay.
So I was lobbying for that kind of stuff. And so at the end of the day, I worked for this gentleman, for that particular group, for probably about maybe 3 years and whatever. And then I opted to open up my own operation called Neighborhood Housing. And I opened up that facility, but mine was.
So you founded your own housing organization.
Yep.
Okay, so that's very important.
Mine
I just want
to home ownership.
I just want to stop and say that there is currently reinvestment going into Northeast Portland, specifically where it concerns individuals who were priced out or moved out due to gentrification and issues like that. But what I notice is all of them are apartments to be rented, studio apartments. I happen to live in another part of town, but I grew up in Northeast Portland, specifically in the Concordia district, and there is no way that you're going to get me to move into an apartment after I lived in a $600,000 house in the Concordia area. So I'm not sure what people are thinking, or is that just a bias toward people now that they think what needs to happen is a lot of low income housing and moderate income housing, because what I see is there needs to be moderate income housing and no income housing, because there are people who are disabled who aren't able to work, elderly, or people who have mental illness. And so the model that is being pushed now in the public space, say the model from some of these individuals when they talk about, for example, a shared prosperity agenda for our future, affordable housing, build more homes so working families can live and grow in the communities they love. Now, if you're disabled, I know children who are disabled who will always live with their parents or live in some kind of facility. They're not able to afford anything. So are we saying that someone who's mentally ill, are we saying someone who's injured or elderly and is past that working stage is not a part of our community? So first of all, I find that very ableist, okay? I find that very ableist because I think of my family members. I just lost my brother. Unfortunately, he lived in a facility.
Right.
And previous to a facility that he lived in, he lived with a gentleman named Herman, who took care of people in our community that couldn't live on their own independently. And it was right, he had a house over here on 15th. But when gentrification came in, they took all those houses away from the individuals. And our family used to pay for my brother, okay? And then he later got Social Security disability. But the last job he worked was years ago in a hospital as a janitor. And as he became ill, he wasn't able to work at all. So is he not part of the community because he can't afford a home because he doesn't work? I take issue with that. Our elderly and folks are definitely a valuable part of our community. They're passing on knowledge. I just want to say that because I don't think that some of these people use sensitivity readers to understand how insulting it is to say that if you cannot contribute to capitalism, that you're not a valuable person and you don't need a place to live. I see people on the street who are disabled. I actually see people, my brother was in a Catholic facility. Many of them are younger and they were born with disabilities and they've never been able to work. So they rely on their parents' working experience and their Social Security, and that's how they're able to get placed. But I don't really see anyone talking about that underclass of disabled, mentally ill. You talked, I know you were a veteran, and I know that
but
a large
before you
part...
leave the housing is very, very important.
Okay, let's go back to...
The reason why I want to bring that up is that there was a commitment that I had made that wasn't there from the other entities, like financial institutions and others. I mean, sure, there was an effort of the individual between Herman and the gentleman that I was working for at that point in time, but they weren't going to that second level, trying to identify with folks who were renting as opposed to home ownership.
Correct.
And then even those folks who were having problems being able to get financing through banks. So what I've done is I went to Neighborhood Association when I put that piece together, but then I started thinking about the major counties aspect of it. And so I identified with the major county, but I upped my quote so-called business into tri-county neighborhood housing.
Very important.
See, which was basically naturally, you got Multnomah County, you got Clackamas County, and you got Washington County, right? Got me? But as part of doing that piece, my resume, my definition was that I was looking for the little folks who were renting, and acquainted them with reference to home ownership. I rehabbed the house, keeping the numbers down, and basically doing it such like I made sure there was a good brand new kitchen.
So you were fiscally responsible,
physically,
and also responsible.
Hiring folks in the area, this, that, and the other. But at the same time, the idea is that I would sell them on the fact that I'd ask them, what are you, because they got to rent somewhere. So the down payment, I was selling them a house on a lease option purchase aspect of it. And the way I would sell it was that I said your first month, last month, and cleaning deposit, it will be basically your down payment.
That's beautiful. I wish
So
that was an opportunity.
And I'm making the reason I'm making a point so you can get back to you doing what you're saying. I put this flyer out when I was running for mayor. Got me?
Let's see.
And for mayor there, and there was a statement there that was made by one of the people that we got a home for. Read it
yes.
out. Read it out.
It says
there.
Mr. Tribbett, a 65-year-old widower who has never owned a home, was able to do so with Bruce's help through Tri-County Neighborhood Housing, a company owned by Bruce and his wife that aided in home ownership. Well, that's what I'm talking about.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and then up here,
then there's a development.
there's more. It says Marie Smith, dedication of the Walnut Park Apartments, Bruce Broussard built. So
read the whole piece of it.
yeah, okay, it's amazing. She says, so many politicians tell you what they're going to do if they get elected. Bruce ran for office and didn't win, but kept his promise. Let's elect him and see what he does. That is what I've noticed.
I don't want to say a whole bunch about, but my point is that you have to if you're going to reach out to people, you let them talk.
Yeah.
But there's a need. So my point is that I put it on the table. And I'm doing it publicly to see if I can get other individuals involved, the banks involved, other developers, or this, that, and other. But in all due respect, as I walked away from the projects, in some cases they wouldn't reach out. The banks wouldn't reach out to me, but they reach out to other folks. But they didn't last long.
Yeah, I understand, and I think
and the same thing with the housing piece aspect of it. I mean, it's just a sad note aspect of it.
Yeah.
In fact, I knew the guy real well, Neil Goldsmith, when I was in the process of developing this apartment complex aspect of it, and I went through it was a Section 8 project, and this is just my money, my wife's money, whatever, and we went and put the money in the deal. And
so you use your own money.
And he was governor at the time, and Neil basically said to me that, well, Bruce, you shouldn't build this project. I want to put a tennis court there.
Well, I'm not against tennis.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But I'm
not
saying,
a very good player. I'm not against tennis.
But
we could use tennis courts, but we could also need housing. We need housing right now.
But my point is that you need housing more than just a tennis court. When you start thinking about tennis court, you're not talking about poor people.
Well, that's some of the issues.
You know, people, I'm just saying, I just had a focus.
Your focus was on housing.
My lane was to build senior citizen housing for seniors, if you will. Get them out their existing house, that they're there living in that neighborhood, with kids being there and this, that, and the other. And then the idea, by getting them to transition into this kind of a housing, and then converting these houses into townhouses, therefore they would own them. They would own these townhouses, these houses, if you will.
That's a great design, because I think
and then they could still basically then sell the house on a lease option purchase to their kids or whomever. See, so the property stays there. It still meets that criteria for that young group coming in who can't approach a house and sell it to them at the same deal. So it was quite a package, but unfortunately, it was just a little too progressive at the time.
I think it might have been too progressive even for now, because as I look at these individuals that are running, I see a long history of work here, but I also don't see a long history of necessary accomplishments from some people. So I see what they're projecting in the future. Now, the future, of course, is imagined. We create the future. Yeah. But when I see a lot of experience with the community, I know that's someone who actually has their finger on the pulse. So let's just read a little of some of this here. And I know this is your time to talk, but I just want to say what's different. So when we look at John Carlos' proven leadership, it says delivered 5,600 affordable homes under budget and ahead of schedule. I don't know where those affordable homes are, because most people would say that market priced homes is what we've been building. So wonder what he calls affordable, because affordable in my neighborhood for an apartment is starting at $2,300. Okay, starting at $2,300. That's not with all the bells and whistles. So I wonder what people are calling affordable, because I don't think most people in Portland call the rental housing market super affordable. Champion living wage jobs for working families. Now, it doesn't say succeeded at producing X amount of dollars. So I mean, most people are for living wage. Yeah. I can say that right now. I'm for a living wage, okay? However, I did not make a living wage happen, and it doesn't state here that he made it happen either. So there's a lot of projecting here. Led smart solutions to make public transit safer and efficient. That's a big one, because I do think the last time I reached out to Mr. Gonzalez, I was on a bus and scared. And I do use public transportation, and unfortunately, I use public transportation today because I like to come over here when it's sunny and then go outside and have a little bite to eat and then stroll and do some shopping. Public transportation is not necessarily safe. There was a lot of swearing. There was a mentally ill woman on the bus, so I don't know. He led the solutions. Apparently, they're not that effective. Strengthen investments in our public parks and natural habitats. Please don't get me started on the parks. The parks are heavily underinvested in. The issue is that we've just had so many other things to focus on that I don't think we've had a lot of time or energy to put in the parks. The bathrooms need attended to. The park in my neighborhood is great because I've been complaining for 8 years. But strengthen investments in our public parks and natural habitats. I can't tell you about the natural habitats. So a shared prosperity. The imaginings is affordable housing, a thriving economy, safe transportation, parks and environment. I want all that too. But how are you going to make that happen? I don't see any answers here in this one. Okay, I'm going to skip Bruce because I'm going to let him talk for himself. And then we have another council president that, surprisingly enough, has a lot of experience as a fifth-generation Oregonian. It talks about it's a remarkable place to live, work, and raise a family for some people. I'm looking for outcomes. I'm looking for credible outcomes, not what they plan to do, because they should plan to do the people's will. So I'm reading this as what I would do if I had a magic wand, because they haven't done any of it. They're stating that they will. So I did read the part where the person said they delivered. This person doesn't focus so much on that, which I think is a good thing. They focus a lot on their urban planning background. I'm not sure where they applied that. It looks like they say they're going to champion smart urban infill development and urban renewal, strengthen neighborhoods, protect the farms, forests, and that's a lot. I don't see actually any solutions for that. It does says they're interested in fiscal discipline. The other person over here, let's go back to this. What does it mean what does smart infill mean? I mean, infill is, I should ask you about that because a lot of people don't want to build housing in between housing. Is that necessary? Or are townhouses the way to go? Removing some of the older homes? We have a lot of decay around here, right? So there's like a building where Gordon's fireplace used to be. I mean, that thing's been over for a while. What about infill? What about demolishing? What about some of that? Since this person mentions infill is important, how do you feel about that?
Well, in all due respect, we have city planners. Each area have city planners, and the job of those planners, if you will, is to design, if you will, and build according to the nature of the people that are residing in those areas. You know what I mean? Their job situation, transportation. There's a whole bunch of deals. But my point is that that's where that comes from, so to speak. And then sometimes they tend to kind of not be able to communicate and educate people about what that's all about. Being able to identify certain areas, make them separate. Just like I said, I was focusing in an area that people were downwritten and this, that, and the other, and folks didn't have the opportunity for home ownership. You got me? And only, you see what I'm saying? Because when they were building those ships and whatever, you got my point, they had invited a whole bunch of folks here. And in all due respect, as far as African Americans, if you will, they were also part of that workforce there during that particular time. And a few people opted to stay there after they basically said, we're not going to do any more building ship aspect of it. So
became home.
They came home or whatever, and they came to a certain area. And that area was considered the black community and the high crime rate and all this, that, and the other. Got my point? And so to me, it was a major it was a major segment of the Portland metropolitan area. That was Old Town. There was a historical pieces out there aspect of it, and I recognize that, and I was just thinking from the standpoint, well, gee whiz, what they owned. In fact, at that point in time, I was one could be getting houses because I was very familiar with the financial institutions. You got my point, and as a result, I was able to go to them because the houses were worth. You could buy a house here $10,000. I mean $10,000.
Well, I wasn't quite at the 10 level.
20, 50, something like that. But my point was very on the low end. But you would think that, gee whiz, wait a minute, here's the opportunity now to identify with the same folks who can't really get into a home ownership environment. And I took that advantage of that and made sure. I didn't say, well, okay, fine, pick it up for maybe $10,000 or $20,000 and then try to sell it to them for $100.
So you were working off the basic of the American dream.
Yeah.
So you weren't saying an apartment.
It wasn't mine to fill up my money.
Apartment that somebody owns that you pay rent. There's no way that I want to live in a affordable apartment unit. I can't have a garden.
I wanted them to own that home and
pride of ownership
and be able to keep it.
Yep, keep it clean.
Keep it clean and whatever.
I see.
And I didn't over rehab. I made sure they had a good kitchen in there, right? A good kitchen and a good bathroom, and make sure that for instance, like when you think about a roof, there don't need about 3 tabs on there, about 3. Well, what I do, if it's under 4, I'll go on and say forget that. But if it's less than that, I'd say let's go on and put a roof. But the idea is to keep it basic, to keep those dollars where the first month, last month, clean the pot.
Okay.
They can make the payments.
So you want renters to become homeowners,
yes, homeowners,
so that they become invested in the community and keep up their, and then also that decreases the reliance on taxpayer money. I mean, we should all be
very much so.
We should all be concerned about taxpayer money.
Refurbish the whole area, so to speak.
Yeah. I'm not sure what it means to build more affordable homes so working families can live and grow in the communities of love. That's a great aspirational statement, but what I'd like to know is how is that done? Now, over here we have a gentleman named Mr. Christensen who talks about thriving neighborhoods and farms. There aren't many farms, big farms in these counties. The biggest land ownership in this state happens to be the state and the city. The city owns most of the parks. So I'm with him on the farm. I think we should have a farm. We should have farms and support them. But I'm not sure agricultural land is the biggest issue in Portland right now. So I'm not sure how much that's going to do for us here. Maybe in Clackamas, he's thinking a little bit more about the Clackamas County type thing. But he says walkable living communities where homes, shops, and parks and workplaces are connected. That all sounds great, but there is no evidence listed that he's performed any of those duties, which I think is interesting. Let's see what I want to question you about some of these other things. So we have a gentleman named Mr. Ross, who's a public safety agent and juvenile counselor. Now I have to tell you that it's code compliance, public safety, and juvenile counselor. That sounds good to me. Okay, until I get reading a little bit more, I'm a little bit more concerned. But I want to talk to you about some of the public safety issues. What do you have to say about public safety?
Well, again, like I said, I picked this one particular community, i.e. the Northeast Corridor here aspect of it, because they had I was a recruiter at one point in time, and naturally I was trying to attract the young folks who didn't have a way out. One college material, so to speak. You got my point? Or
maybe just didn't enjoy the academic setting.
It's just the education system wasn't well, wasn't fair, if you will.
Yes.
They did not have the same equal education like the other schools here within the area. They just didn't do it, and found that out through Matt Prophet, who happens to be he was a superintendent of Portland Public Schools.
You know how I found that out? Going through Portland Public Schools, and then attending PCC.
Yeah.
And then going back east and enrolling in a university. So I did spend I spent several hours till 2 and 3 a.m. catching up on the lack of education that I did not get from our Portland public school system. And I want to say that for all the children who are struggling, it just may not be you, because I did go on to go to University of
Right. Well,
Maryland,
you were able to get out.
Antioch, and Cornell.
Yeah.
So there was a lack of
different,
support
yeah,
here,
yeah.
and my
For the base, for that base. You need that base.
just
you
a
know?
lack of
Yeah.
of tools to get it done, and mismanagement of funds within certain districts. So I certainly appreciate that. So you're saying that you want to give youth a chance
Yeah.
before they're in the system.
In that community.
Yes, in their home space.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Educational opportunities,
I was
work
reaching out,
opportunities.
I was reaching out to poor whites.
Yes.
I hate to put that culture piece, but the fact that I was reaching out to young people.
Yes, so young people before they got system involved.
They got system involved, and during my time when I was a recruiter, there was a expungement kind of a person. Meaning that if you committed a crime and whatever, those are situations we'd look at, we'd vet, and figure that, well, it wasn't, if you just ripped off a recorder or something like that, caught with a joint, we'd kind of look at it and put you in the Corps. Got me? And so I was reaching out to those going to JDH. Where the young people were, and spending some time there and all. So it was very important to me, because I'd come from an entity that I was able to benefit as a result of being in the Corps. Got me? But it was a controlled environment. That was the key. The controlled environment. Because once they got in, when they get out, they're solid as a rock. Got me? And when you go through that boot camp aspect of it. So I was thinking right from that standpoint. So I was dealing with some tough kids during that particular time. But they were good kids. You know, and they had parents and whatever, and even though they're seconds or whatever, so it was just it was kind of a situation that I felt comfortable in, and I knew I could do the job, and I did a good job as a recruiter.
And you also had good relationships with the community, so their youth were more accessible
Parents, the
to
whole
you.
nine
That's
yards,
very
yeah.
important,
Oh,
because
very
it's
much
very
so.
difficult to interact with people that you don't have a relationship.
You got to educate people about a war. A war is a war.
Yes, it is. The last, and I think that pretty much covers that. But did you want to say anything about just safety in general for our streets, our public safety? Did you want to say anything about?
Well, public safety is that, it's like anything else. Police
And how
officers,
Metro can
As
assist.
far as public safety is concerned, the enforcement arm of that law enforcement aspect of it, we identify it as a person in a certain kind of a uniform. They are called law, enforcement officers. So I call them laws that are enforced by entities that are directed with a certain criteria. That's how they would perform what they do. Okay, and so I knew that, and I worked very closely with the police at the time. To talk to, it's kind of like a paramilitary kind of a group anyway.
But what about the fire department? Are they public safety? And they're talking about eliminating fire departments.
Well, no, they should not be doing that. They wear a uniform too, and they're very, very public safety again.
Public
too.
safety.
So
we are having fire problems. The
they're
summers are
very
getting
much
hotter.
So. They're there. But my point is that a lot of times they've been treated like they're separate entities, just totally separate entities. Like the police has its own thing. No one can tell them what to do.
I see.
And that's not the fact. That's not the way. That's not the way the planners put this piece together. They are the enforcement officers of the laws that the people come up with and tell their officials to impose on them. That's the training.
Okay.
Unfortunately, see what I'm saying? And so sometimes it's like anything else. And even in our military, if you get to the point where you're not doing the job right, we get you out, or you lose a strike.
Well, let's talk about this. Since you were a Marine recruiter, what do you think the police department should or shouldn't do? Now, this is a little off subject, but do you think that we have the right amount of police and public safety officers, whether they be fire department or whether they focus on juvenile, or do you think that we have the right mix, or do you think we need to take that a little bit?
Well, in all due respect, it depends upon who's in the uniform. They're trained to be a certain way. They're trained not to be just individuals. They're trained to basically enforce something that they were given orders, if you will, to do and perform. Okay? And that's not just restricting them from talking about numbers. No, if it's a crowd, they're supposed to handle it.
Yes.
They got a uniform. And it's a deterrent. Wearing that uniform is a deterrent. When I wore that uniform, I could go anywhere else in the state that I wanted to.
But police don't really walk the streets.
Well, they used to. They used to.
So
They
we
used-
don't see their
They
uniform.
used to do downtown. No, but that's part of their criteria. That's why they wear the uniform. Otherwise, they'd be in civilian clothes. They're wearing uniform because when you supposed to, when you see a person in a uniform aspect of it, you immediately become aware of who that person is and what they're supposed to do. But unfortunately, we don't have that training component anymore. Like going to career day when in school, in high school, when they have a person there in uniform. Got me?
Yes, and that's also a way
They
of
don't do that
the
anymore.
community and the youth getting
Yeah.
to know the officers
Yeah, yeah.
in their communities, so there isn't this fear. If they need to come forward to report something that's happening to them,
Yeah.
I don't think most young people know an officer that they can go report things to.
Well, the fire department's the same way. They have uniforms on. And you got the fire department on it. You know, hey, look, when they're there, you get out of their way, let them do their job aspect of it. That's their job. The same thing with the policeman aspect of it. They wear that uniform as a deterrent. But again, like I said, they got to stay in that lane. This is not something they create. However, to date, unfortunately, they're getting all kinds of things being thrown out their way. And they have to deal with that issue to either, because it's spontaneously or this, that, and the other, and whatever.
That's why I mentioned firemen, because I think in the last few years I have called the fire department more than I have in my in my life. And each time I called them, it was for an out of control fire, and it was set by someone who was homeless. Across the street from me, a fire started, and I thought, I can't possibly be seeing this. And they set the bushes on fire. And there was a building right next to the bushes. There are two buildings right next to the bushes. And I immediately became concerned. And then the trees, not a block down, those were also set on fire. And they cornered that area off, so you can't even get back in there anymore, because there were a lot of trees and a lot of houses. So the fire department is part of our public safety. Also, I noticed when I was talking about homelessness, which is a big issue, a lot of people don't relate this, but a lot of, I shouldn't say firemen, because some of them are women. So they're firefighters and they're paramedics. They're responding to a lot of people who are homeless with illness, who have drug issues. Do we need to do something differently with our public safety officers to address it? I don't think that was something that they addressed very much in the past. Is that something that I'm just not aware of? But I see firemen and firefighters being put in harm's way, and paramedics being put in harm's way all the time. There's some real heroes, there's some real heroes out there. What do you think about the expansion, the growth, or the shrinkage? Where do you think we are now overall with public safety? We have enough people? We need more people?
I think the components are there, and the issues have gotten worse, if you will. But we're not training folks
Okay.
to focus on their lane.
Okay.
If you're a policeman, you got those kind of laws over there. If you're a fireman, you got those kind of laws, and they're just running on. In fact, in all due respect, when they start taking women on, let's say in the police department, like you said, two people would walking downtown or whatever, or maybe one person aspect of it, and then a woman is supposed to go through training, and then she is supposed to, i.e., arrest a person if they're breaking a law by herself at times. And even if it's not, in fact, there are certain things that women can do and can't do to a certain degree. Because now, like I said, when I was in the Marine Corps, we had to haul
Now,
a
why do you
person.
say that? Because my mom was from Louisiana, Monroe, Louisiana. Strangely enough, there are a lot of people from Louisiana here.
Yeah, I'm from Louisiana. I like
She was
it.
from Monroe, which is a farming community. If you know Representative Travis Nelson,
I know Nelson.
he's
I know-
also
I know-
from Monroe,
No,
Louisiana.
I know of the person named Nelson. He's never come on the show.
Oh, we got to get Travis on here, though.
he's
Travis is wonderful. Travis is a nurse. He's also
Well, some
a
people think
representative.
sometimes that because I'm in the Corps, I'm a little sort of have some concern or reservations about getting someone who happens to be gay. Well, he happens to be gay, no problem. You gay, you gay. I mean, I'm not saying
That's a whole other topic, but I just wanted to say that in Louisiana,
as far as I'm concerned, he's not the person that we've hired. And I'm in this district. I'm in his district, and he's not doing what the people are saying. I am a person within his district.
well, then then we should definitely have him on the show.
I've called him on many occasions, and on all due respect,
You know, he is a nurse. He is a working nurse. I want to say that if you've ever been in the medical field or even in the restaurant community as a chef or any of those things, you have the weirdest hours. You may be sleeping when everybody's up. So we should reach out to Travis, but his family is from Monroe, Louisiana. And that is a farming community. And his family, he comes from sharecroppers. My family
I don't think he picked any cotton. I know I did.
I don't think he picked any cotton either.
And I did. I've cut sugar cane before. I worked in the rice field.
Rice fields. Okay.
Oh yeah, I plowed.
I'm sure he picked something because you don't get to come from Monroe without picking something.
And I've been a recruiter, and I'm not going to recruit him in the Marine Corps. No, I'm just saying that, I'm just saying right now, presently. But if I had that uniform on, if I saw him, I'd probably reached out to him. When the laws change, that's the way it is.
There's one other individual I'm looking at his governmental experience, and he has none. And his name is Philip Finsterer.
Yeah.
And I have to say that this is one of the few times where having no experience might be an asset. Because just because you have experience, you may have the wrong kind. Okay, so for example, I'm not going to mention names, but when I look at some of the involvement and some of the signatures of people who have endorsed certain individuals, they would be better off without those endorsements, because it's a shorthand way of saying, I shouldn't necessarily vote for you. So an endorsement by Mayor Keith Wilson, I'm not sure if you want that endorsement, okay? Mayor Wilson has come under attack and under fire for many of the things he's done, not for the things he stated he's going to do, but the things he's actually done. So he wanted to open up 1,500 beds, and I guess for the gram, because he opened 1,500 or 800 and said 700 more available, and then quickly shut down the one in the Pearl District. Now, that's interesting, because I think the one that should have been shut down actually should have been the Salvation Army. I have my reasons. I do support what the Salvation Army does. And I know that's somewhat controversial, but I think they have been doing it for 100 years, housing people. And so they can tell you some of the challenges about housing people. And I don't think that enough people listen to them, I think, because of their religious background. But they're still open, and the one that the mayor opened in Northwest Portland was shut down. Now, I knew a lawsuit was going to come from that. But over here in this section of town where the Salvation Army is, people were less likely to sue, and that's why I think the one in the Pearl District was closed, too close to the financial hubs in the center. So an endorsement from Mayor Wilson isn't necessarily something that is going to gain you votes. It'll probably lose you as many as you gain. And then there are other people around here who signed that were very interested in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and sided with Israel. So I think that will lose some votes. It's very interesting how people chose to present those things. I would not put that there. As a marketing person, I would say I would stay away from that kind of controversy. But here's someone on the last page who before you leave that point, let me share this with you, because you're a community and you're people. You're a voting person. The fact of the matter is, they may be they're all decent people. Let's say that way. Well, I'm not going to say they're all decent people. No, some of these people, I would say, should not be in their positions.
But I'm still saying they're running for office. A person has every right.
Oh, yes.
They can run for office.
I gotcha.
The key is that when you start
anybody can run for office.
Yeah, you talk about the needs in terms of the job as an employer. Got me? When I assign someone to do a job, I just want them to do a job. and in terms of Keith's situation and how he got elected aspect of it, they had 3 people that were running for office, in all due respect, that under the old system that had participated in all of these different issues that we're talking about right now. Understand what I'm saying? A little bit more than he had.
Well, I also see some names under this signature that I would remove. I've worked with these individuals, and I noticed that these people are in possession of my intellectual property.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
I would not take someone. I called them up the minute they did it. I called up.
Well, with all due respect, for you been on this piece here, they've written these pieces based on certain situations. Okay, this is a different kind. This guy's got about $180,000 that he's spending on his campaign.
Well, he should have hired a marketing person because he shouldn't have put down. In my opinion, some of these names are harmful to his campaign if he says that he's done all these things with smart solutions, and then underneath it he has the Metro Council president, Lynn Peterson, somewhat embattled, Mayor Keith Wilson, definitely embattled, Ricky Ruiz, which I've had to speak to about my intellectual property. Some of those names.
Well, those are
shouldn't. They have imagery. But
those are politicians, not people. I'm not trying to be in a negative vein, my friend. They've got certain things they want. This is the economic side, and I'm not anti-economic in businesses because, in all due respect, they provide many jobs and this, that, and the other. But they've got some specific things that they want done.
I understand. I want specific things done too, which is why when I produce a bill, like I wrote the mass marijuana expungement, and I saw that Ricky Ruiz had made some comments on it that I actually didn't write in the bill. Yeah. I had to call him up and say, look, if you're going to talk about my intellectual property, at least call me to get my feedback on it. So, I wasn't going to share that with you, but I'm pretty sure that anyone who is in that space that doesn't honor women, especially Black and Indigenous women, I have concerns with, and I'm willing to say that out loud. So
I'm pro.
Equal rights,
I
gay,
do understand
Black, Indigenous.
Everybody has a right.
That's right.
They have a right. They are a person, aspect of it. I mean, but sometimes when they talk of specific jobs, I'm concerned about public safety, the physical aspect of it.
I'm concerned about somebody's ability to intellectually design something and carry it through. So if you have to start in the middle with somebody else's initiative and work through it and then claim it's your own, that's a little disingenuous. But let's get to this gentleman because I find this gentleman very unique, and I want to see how your opinions stack up against him. I kind of like this guy because he's got a funny smile in the picture, and I think he's the only one smiling in this way. So this person is a marine zookeeper. He calls himself a marine life keeper. He's at the Oregon Zoo. Zookeeping aside, because we have individuals who don't necessarily support zoos at all.
And Metro's responsible for that.
Metro's responsible for the zoo. So I think this is the reason why this person is heavily invested. And his whole platform seems to be around the zoo. So his occupational background is the Oregon Zoo animal keeper, life support operator since 2000. He worked at an aquarium. Seems like an interesting guy for years. A lot of experience in this area. Yes, he does. And he attended the same I also attended Old Dominion University, got a paralegal certificate for them. He got a BS in biology. So he's all about biology and the zoo, which I think is very important for our area. I'm not sure I'm crazy about zoos, but my opinion aside, he wants his legacy to be able to restore the habitat in the region. And conservation efforts, natural biodiversity. He wants to be planting natives in every open space on Metro property. And that kind of sounds boring until you realize the
respect for
the land, and we're keeping the animals safe. So that sounds good to me. He says he's hopeful. He wants to live the mission of the Oregon Zoo. So that is his highest priority right now, and exceed the standards while fostering a meaningful connection between the zoo and the animals. He wants to create behavior change that benefits the wild relatives of the animals that he cares for. and he wants to have a good legacy for the Metro and the Oregon Zoo.
Yeah.
So it seems like that is his primary issue. He's also running for council president. You would think that he would have a little bit more expansive. He didn't talk about homelessness. Maybe because it's on everybody's mind.
But that's his lane.
Yes, that's his lane.
That's his lane.
That's his lane, and I appreciate.
And he wrote it the way it is.
I appreciate that he stuck in his lane.
Yeah.
So I see, when I look through a lot of these, I also see that this gentleman who worked a lot with public safety kind of stuck in his lane. And then we have people over here who maybe just took a lot of words, sandwiched them together because these are priorities. So the priorities of the people are the housing, the economy, transportation, and suddenly about parks. Most of these people just talked about their capabilities, not what other people wanted. And I think that was the way to go, because they talked about, what they can do. So this gentleman is talking about the Oregon Zoo. What do you think about the Oregon Zoo and native plantings on Metro property? What do you think?
Well, I think he's got, like I said, I think he's a neat guy, and he's got a lane. However, being president of Metro is not an easy task. Okay, you got me? You got 3 counties that you're going to be basically overseeing, if you will, and giving them directions. So it can't be just in one particular area, specific area. And again, all due respect, that's one of the reasons why I feel comfortable in filing to run for this, because I've been around. I've been around with all the necessary entities that Metro needs to talk to today, whether it be the bridge, whether it be the environmental issues and things of that nature. I've been there. I've been involved. Plus the fact I've met the people, and I do my years and careers and whatever, and so that's a very important piece. So I'm saying that, like we tried to do initially, we made public announcement. I would like for them to come on the show.
Yes, please do. Let me give you that number again. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but let me give you that number again. 503-389-8912. You can also text me. Okay? But yeah, he's the only one actually talking about a facility that Metro actually...
And then I'll share another thought with you about that. If you notice over here, like where is he right here? See? Now, he doesn't have the endorsement. He gets the endorsement from the people in his lane. You couldn't find anybody at the zoo that wouldn't be anti him.
That's true, but here's the thing.
And the same thing on my end to a certain degree. I mean, if you notice, naturally I had to file at the last minute, and I didn't have enough time to put their names down. You got to put everything there. But still, I'm a people person.
You know what I like about this, though? It's interesting, is because he didn't go and put 20 things that he's not experienced at.
Right. That's what I said. That's his lane.
You know what I'm saying?
That's
so I happen to be a ivy removal nut. And this gentleman is talking about supporting natural biodiversity. And so he's sticking in his lane.
That's right.
He's saying that his lane is removal of invasives.
That's why I put this up there, because that's my lane.
Yeah. But it may be a little narrow, right? Because Metro does a lot of things. So let's talk about...
No, narrow. No.
I mean, this gentleman's lane is narrow.
Yeah, but still, it's okay if that's what we have to deal with.
But look at this. Look at this, Bruce. So it says community and business service. We're just going to go out on this. Vietnam veteran, Martin Luther King Jr. Scholarship Fund Board, Governor Small Task Force, Metro Solid Waste Advisory Board. So as we go out in these last few seconds, let's talk about, you just tell me a little bit about Metro and your final position statement on why you're running.
Well, in all due respect, I looked at the same situation and said, "Hey, the people need to be a part of this discussion, because we got a lot of things to do." So I filed. Hopefully, we can get a runoff and so to speak, and talk about this a little bit more. Okay.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in today.
All right, sounds good.